I'd like to call this December 3rd council work session to order. I'm sorry for the half-hour delay, but we were in an executive session discussing litigation. Okay, our first point of tonight on the agenda is I'm going to have Mr. John Oliano speak. John, if you can go to that podium and give us an update on the Sons of Italy.
All right, thank you, Ralph, and thank you, Council, for giving me the opportunity. My name is John Oliano. I represent the Piazza Nueva Lodge, Yardley Newtown Sons of Italy. I'm here tonight to give you a brief on a concert that's coming up at the Bucks County Community College on Sunday, December 13th to 16th at 3 in the afternoon. We have a gorgeous gal that's going to put on a 2-hour show that is originally from Venice, Italy, and sings all types of music, mainly a pop singer that will be singing songs from the 60s, 70s, 80s, Christmas music, and Italian music. So Gianna will be with us on the 16th of December, as I said, on a Sunday afternoon. And this is Giada. She'll have a live band, quite a good group. I've seen these guys in performance, and they'll put on a fantastic show. The show is $35 per ticket, open seating. The theater is at the Bucks County Community College Gateway Theater. It's a stadium seating theater, very, very comfortable, beautiful acoustics, a really good facility. It's going to be a great afternoon. Tickets are available from Brown Paper Tickets, and Brown Paper Tickets is a big organization throughout the country. The phone number for this event is 800-838-3006, and it's event 262939. A phone call to Brown Paper Tickets will give you a great afternoon. The tickets will be in the mail to you the day you call in, and you'll have them in a few days. So we'd like to see you at the show. It's going to be a great afternoon. And Ralph, thank you for giving me this few moments to make this presentation.
You're always
Thank
welcome.
you.
Just so you know, John was here before, and he did a cookbook, and he donated the proceeds to the college to help out the...
Matter of fact, I'm glad you mentioned that. The cookbook was for sale here in town at Mignoni's, and Carol did quite well with the book. I did this book about 2 years ago. The book was able to fund an endowment at the college for the community, for the culinary school. So it's all about scholarship funding for the culinary school as a result of the cookbook. All of the money that came from the book went directly to that endowment. So it's one of those things that I did, a great cookbook, and if you'd like to have a look at that book, you can find me on Amazon. Just Google my name, John Oliano, O-L-I-A-N-O, and you'll be introduced to the wonderful world of Italian cooking. A gorgeous book, by the way, that represents the whole of Italy by region, with about 140 recipes, over 140 recipes, a photo of every dish, nutrition analysis of every dish, done in the Italian style. It's a 4-season book with a full menu for Easter Sunday, followed by Italian dishes of the season, then a summer festival, same idea, followed by various Italian dishes for the summer. The Feast of St. Gennaro, which is a very popular, large festival, not only in the United States, but obviously in Italy, the biggest in all of Italy. And then lastly, I did the Vigil di Natale, which is known as the Feast of Fishes in Italy, or as the Italian Americans say, the Feast of Seven Fishes. At any rate, my main objective today was to give you a look at Giada. Come on out and have a good time with us. And again, it's brown paper tickets, 800-838-3006, event number 262939. Operators are standing by, folks. Thanks, Ralph.
Hey, can you buy just for the press, the 3 people writing for the newspapers tonight? Can they get tickets at the door, or?
There will be a will call, if anybody would like to give me their name and in fact buy a ticket tonight. I have some tickets, and I'll take will call if anyone's interested. And we can handle it that way. Anybody for a ticket? Half a dozen tickets. Do I hear 12?
If anybody needs anything, they could also maybe contact the borough, and we'll put them, if they can't get through.
Well, that'd be
put them
great.
in-
Thanks.
In
Thank you.
touch with you through email or whatever.
Okay, thank you.
All right,
And again, thanks for the time.
thank you.
Thank you.
Before we leave, Gene, we want to wish you happy birthday. Gene is born the same day as my dad was born, December 3rd. My dad would have been,
Can I take another moment?
yes.
I have to say this. I know Ralph since he's about that big, and, well, maybe a little bigger. But he hung out with his dad, and his dad used to do all kinds of construction work for a business that I had back at that era. And I remember Ralph tagging along, and he was like the get me this, get me that guy at that time. And here he is, sitting here in front of you people, so good job, Ralph.
Thank you.
Now he says that to us, get me this, get me that. Something's never changed.
Thank you.
My dad would have been 90 years old today. All right, Mr. Pezza.
Thank you, Ralph. I'm familiar with John's book from the college, and it really is quite good, and I hope everyone can support both the concert and cookbook. My wife Karen wrote a cookbook. It's 2 pages long. It consists of all the phone numbers of restaurants that she likes to visit and call out.
Yeah, that was fun.
Didn't sell that well. It actually cost us a lot of money. With the year drawing to a close, I thought it'd be a good idea to drop in and bring you up to date on some of the things the Economic Development Committee has been doing. As we've stated numerous times, our goal is to encourage people to visit, live, and invest in Bristol Borough by starting a business. That message clearly is intended for outsiders, but I think it's equally important that we maintain the confidence level of the people who already live here and encourage investment in our own town, in our own homes, and to patronize our own businesses. To that end, I just want to take a minute to just put some things in perspective, things you already know. This is a tremendous town with an unbelievable community spirit. I'd like to point out some events that occurred just in the last month, and when you see them in their totality, I think it's pretty impressive. Last week, the borough sponsored a tree lighting ceremony, and that's after great work by the borough crew to put it up and to cut it down and to put it up and the whole bit. But Ralph, you were there. I'm not an expert in estimating crowds. Many of you were there. But I've got to believe there were 1,500 people there.
Yeah, there was two
It was,
like
it
that.
was staggering.
I've never seen a crowd that big.
It was
Yeah.
staggering. And
Biggest crowd we ever had.
standing on that balcony, looking out so you could see the full expanse of the crowd, it went all the way down the street that ran along the river and up the hill and back to the, and standing there and seeing the football team, the cheerleaders, people singing Christmas carols, people holding their children waiting
Felt
to
like a
see Santa
Hallmark
Claus.
movie.
I thought to myself, are you kidding me? This is, where do you find this? How do you put a price tag on that kind of community spirit? How do you put a value on that? So I think it's tremendous. We all know that, but it's good to remind ourselves of it. And the very next day, of course, we had a tremendous parade attended by thousands of people. It's always a highlight of the year. People come in from out of town, they line the streets, they visit their relatives who have a spot on the parade route. It's nice, and I know you guys will be talking about the volunteers that did all the work, but I think it's also important to point out the community residents who support it. Then, there's more. On Friday, hundreds of people got on the Northeast Extension to go see Bristol High's football team play. And we all know what a tremendous job Leo Polensky and John Lawley and the coaching staff did with those kids. But you know, it's an ordeal to get on a bus or to get in a car and drive that far to get there. And I'm not talking about sports now. I'm talking about not because they won, not because they had such a great win-loss record, but those kids were disciplined, They were well-trained, they were good sportsmen, and wherever they went, they spoke well. They represented our town well, and I think that's very important. The next night, after the football game, there was a sellout at the Fifth Ward Club to support the basketball team. People in this town support activities. And before anyone says, well, all he's talking about is sports, a couple of weeks ago, the 21st Century Educational Group sponsored an event at the Canal Works, and 400 people went to financially support after-school educational programs for the town. When you couple all of that with the 2 sold-out events we had at the community theater for raising the bar, I think it's clear that people in this town want to do good things, support the things you're doing. And what I'd like to talk about briefly, and I know I've already taken a long time, is I'd like to see us transfer the energy that I just talked about into supporting our local businesses. This is going to sound trite, but why don't we try this year to make a special effort to shop in Bristol? Now, I'm not saying spend all your Christmas dollars in Bristol Borough. Maybe there's special things you need to buy that you can't get here. But you know what? A couple of us just brainstormed some gift ideas, especially gift certificates. No one returns gift certificates. They return ties, they return suspenders, but they don't return gift certificates. You can buy gift certificates for restaurants, for nail salons, for hairstyling, for tanning, for gym membership, theater tickets for the plays, oil changes, car detailing, massages, pedicures, hoagies from, we can also purchase jewelry, power tools, hardware, cosmetics, antiques, candles, flowers, bicycles, wine, medical supplies, decorations, gift wrapping. Before we jump in the car, which we do just out of rote, I got to go buy some stuff, I'm going to get in the car and drive to the mall. Before we fight the traffic and the crowds and spend the money for gas, why don't we just give some thought, what can I buy right here in town? Because those things are here, and they're good. Now, for the broader picture, I just wanted to bring you up to date. We had a productive meeting last week. Some members of our committee met with the council president, met with Mr. Dillon and Mr. Salerno, and Mr. Sabatini had a late conflict, but he and I talk frequently about what we're doing. And our main point was we never want to get ahead of the council. We never want to do anything you guys aren't aware of, and that we're working together and we're on the same page. What we're doing initially is data gathering. That sounds boring, but the people that know what they're doing say this is extremely important. When you're talking about applying for grants, when you're talking about giving realtors the data they need to try to attract someone to come to town for an investment, data gathering is very important, and we're doing that. And I think it's going to be productive. We also discussed the possibility of targeting the business district, perhaps, for early emphasis. We're exchanging information. Mr. Dillon sent us some information from the Delaware Valley Regional Planning Commission regarding how to make your community more livable, more viable. Mayor Malley, if you remember from his visit, suggested developing a top 10 list. I don't think there's any, kind of a wish list for what we'd like to see happening. I don't think there's any magic number to the top 10, but I think there is some value in asking residents to have some input. What would be your wish list? What top 10 projects would you like to pursue? And asking the council at the same time, what projects would you like to pursue? And that's not going to be written in granite, but just for an exchange of ideas. Any issues at all that come up, any concerns, any questions, please let me know or let Ralph know, and we'll talk. But we're just, we're just going to be relentless in trying to market this town. We have a good town. We have problems. And what's interesting is that people say, yeah, well, what about this? You're talking about all these positive things, but what about the guy down the street from me who's ruining my neighborhood and stuff like that? We understand that. We know we have problems, and we're working on them. And if we wait to solve all the problems before we continue to do the positive things, it's not going to happen. So it has to be a dual approach. I think the town is doing a great job in trying to pursue a dual approach, and that's what we'll keep doing. So I thank you for the time.
Thank you.
For all the time and effort you're putting into this, and put politics aside, anybody living in this town doesn't feel this town is better off today than it was 5, 10 years ago. It's basically, it's personal, because this town has never flourished the way it's flourishing right now.
No, I agree.
And this council has a lot to do with what's going on.
And, you know, we'd have our head in the sand if we didn't know that it's a struggle. It's a lot of work. But it's always, the curve is going this way. You know, sometimes it takes a little dip, but the curve is going this way, and we have to keep that going.
And we're going to announce tonight that there will be, I think it's now 7 straight years without a tax increase. So,
Excellent.
for all the services that we're providing and all the things and buildings and renovations and all the criticism we took for moving in that direction, but you need to, my theory has always been, you need to lead by example. You can't tell somebody to fix up their property when you have a building here that you couldn't even wash your hands when you got done using the men's room. So you bring developers in, you bring business people in like you're talking about, you need to show them what this town's about. And I think we have exceeded our expectations with all that. So,
The last thing we want is for anybody here to say, you know, what are those guys doing, or what are they up to? We all want to be on the same page. So,
we are.
any questions, concerns, please, the sooner you get them out, the better it is, and we can talk about it. Thank you
Anybody
very
have
much.
any
Thank
questions for council, anybody before Bill leaves?
No, just that it was definitely a crowd bigger than I've ever saw down there.
It's like Rockefeller Center.
Yeah, I couldn't
We
believe
have the
it.
ice skaters, but otherwise,
I live on Bear Street. I thought I'd drive and park in the parking lot, and I came down at 6:15. There was nowhere to park. So we took the car back and walked back, and it just was unbelievable.
We're about 15 feet away from competing with Rockefeller Street.
Yeah, it was
too.
great.
That
It
may
was
happen
great.
next year.
and I think a lot of them, most of them were from town.
Yeah.
And that's good, because that's the kind of spirit we want to keep reinforcing. But we also need to figure out a way that when we bring people to town, figure out a way to make it in their interest to come back again.
Yeah.
And that's what we're working on.
I think people in town are tired of the negativity.
Yeah.
They want, they're tired of hearing it. Let's move forward, look what we have, look at the positive things, and let's build on that. So,
Agreed.
thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Bill.
All right, another Bill.
Bill Knight.
It's Bill Knight.
Bill Knight here.
My name's Bill Ferguson. I'm here representing Merle tonight, who's still recuperating from his surgery, on behalf of Emergency Management. And for those of you that don't know me, I've been volunteering in town as the town's radio officer since 1970, when Mr. Dillon was here the first time, and we built the building across the street where most of our radio equipment's located. Over the last 10 years, Emergency Management has gone from just a phrase or a name to an active organization. And we've established a very reliable communication system in the borough that we use for special events. Bill mentioned a couple of them: the tree lighting, the Christmas parade, the doo-wop, the events in the parks during the summertime, the boat thing on the Delaware. My full-time job is in two-way radio. I've been in two-way radio for over 45 years. And over the last few years, with the advent of this narrowbanding that's taken place in January, I've managed to get Merle donated radios. In fact, we have 12 donated radios that are going to expire on midnight, December 31st. We won't be able to use them anymore. I've been talking to Mr. Dillon about the purchase of 12 radios to replace the ones that we can't use, because they did get used quite a bit during the storm. Merle handed them out to the various fire companies and the other volunteers, and they're sorely needed, and we're sorely going to miss them if we don't get them replaced. I brought a radio tonight, which is what we want to purchase. That particular radio is $255. So we're looking at a little less than $3,000 to replace our radios. And they'll probably last us another 10, 15 years. They don't get used a lot, but they're there when we need them. And without them, we're going to miss them. So Merle suggested that I come and speak to you. Like I said, I've been talking to Jim about it quite a bit, and we would like to have council consider getting us permission, even if it's after the first of the year, approval to purchase the 12 radios at $255 a piece, which they have a 3-year warranty, and to keep us going forward in the right direction.
Well,
For those of you that don't know it, Bristol probably has one of the most advanced private communication system in Bucks County. Between fire and emergency management, we're second to none. And we've always been very progressive. It's been tough in years past trying to get any money out of the borough, but through connections that I have, we've managed to get a lot of donated equipment, and it's keeping us going, and I'd like to see the program continue.
So the only question I have is, the county with this new system, are you going to be able to pick up on this radio, or that has nothing to do with it?
Has nothing to do with it. The county system, when you get a bad storm or some big event that comes through the area, the county system gets busy very quickly, and it's unusable. We've always maintained our own system in town. Merle used it quite a bit during the Roman Hawes event back in May, where the fire system was busy, the police system's busy. Since we have radios in all the police cars, we have direct communications with them. Merle gave radios out to the fire companies during the
That's
storm.
what I'm getting at. The police are in they could, no matter what they do, they'll still be able to pick up on this radio.
That's correct. We have, like I said, we have our own in-house system. We've had it for 10 years. And the chief, a couple years ago, updated all the radios in the police cars, knowing that January 2013 was coming, so they're in good shape. It's just that a lot of our donated radios are going to need to be replaced.
Well, as far as I'm concerned, Merle is the ultimate person that this borough ever found, so I like to make it an agenda item to put $3,500 on the agenda to spend on radios and whatever we can do.
For emergency management.
For emergency management.
Thank you.
How many do we
Wait a
need?
minute, I'll see if anybody has any questions.
We presently have 12.
All right, so I like
How
to
did we
say,
get all 12 of these? I thought it was just Merle and Ronnie.
Now, the volunteers that come in this last instance, the storm, the fire companies all got one of the radios so we could speak with them. We have other,
Police, traffic calming.
yeah, the traffic people. You can never have enough radios.
No, that's what I always say.
I mean, during the events, when Bob was driving the bus, the shuttle bus back and forth, we gave him a radio so we could communicate with him, you know, so they get a lot of usage in town.
Yeah, because the radio I have is outdated.
Yeah, his radio is one that's
Quit
going to have to be
complaining, Bob,
replaced.
for God's sake.
anybody from council have any questions for Bill?
Who would hold these radios? Will they be given to somebody individually right away, or to somebody,
Or Merle's office.
Merle's office?
Can give them out.
Merle will assign them to each, whoever he needs to give them to.
That's correct.
Okay, thank you.
I have a question for probably you or the manager, certainly in support of the idea. Would the money come from this year's budget, our current fiscal
Yes.
year, or the one?
This year. Lorraine, you have anything?
No, I
Tony?
think,
I was going to say, does Merle know that he's losing his stipend
yeah.
if we get him these phones?
This is in lieu of. Okay, now we're at 7,000.
You have anything, Pat?
No
Betty?
questions, sir.
No, that was it. I want to know who would hold the
No,
radios.
I already asked my question.
All right, so the agenda item will read $3,500 for radios for the emergency management system.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, anybody in the public have any public, before we move on, public participation, either side? That ends public participation. Herbie?
I have a couple things. One, as everybody knows, we did not receive the casino grant for the police, fire, and the emergency management radios. We're still waiting to hear on the federal emergency management grant that we have in. They had stopped processing the grants for the fiscal year transition, and then they had also were further delayed because they used a lot of their people to support the efforts resulting from Hurricane Sandy. It appears now that in this last week, they've started to process those grants again, and we're still hopeful that we'll be able to secure one of those grants, which would, that grant covers all the fire companies in the borough, 3 fire companies in the township, 1 fire company in Ben Salem, fire company in Marsville, and Bucks County Rescue Squad. It was a regional grant, which is the way we had to go for that. We're still working on the carbon monoxide alarms. We were slowed down a little bit right now because we ran out of smoke alarms, And we didn't want to go back and make 2 trips, so we've slowed down. We've ordered 1,500 smoke alarms as part of our federal grant. That order's being processed, and we would expect to start receiving those smoke alarms in the next week. So we'll be back out doing the carbon monoxide and the smoke alarms. Last night, we had a carbon monoxide incident on Swain Street. It was a result of a faulty heater and a clogged chimney. When the fire department got there, we found readings in the basement of the house that had the problem of 100 parts per million, which is a highly dangerous level. In the house next door that was attached, we had readings of 35 parts per million. The residents in the house where the problem occurred had a carbon monoxide alarm that activated, and that was what gave them an alert to that there was a problem. We secured the heater and we ventilated both houses until we got the readings down to 0. But it just goes to show, that's the 3rd one since Hurricane Sandy that we've had in town that were fairly serious in terms of carbon monoxide. And the last thing I have is tomorrow night, Dow Chemical is holding a review and training session for the fire companies related to the May 3-alarm fire incident, the flammable liquids. They're going to provide us with some additional training and go over that incident and improvements that have been made in response.
Anybody
Tomorrow
have
night, all the fire companies will be going. I would expect we'll have 20 to 30 people at least.
any questions for Herbie?
No.
Okay. I just wanted to know, what warrants the need for a sprinkler system for a new building? Like what,
The borough has a sprinkler ordinance,
okay,
and in that sprinkler ordinance, it spells out the types of occupancies that are required to have sprinklers. It also is related to construction type. Certain type of construction, more than 10,000 square feet, requires sprinklers.
okay.
Certain kind of construction, more than 5,000 feet, requires sprinklers. And then there's some very specific.
Is there any, like if they have doors in each room, does that affect it in any way? Like change the need for a sprinkler system?
Doors.
Exit doors, entrance doors, and
You
everything?
have building is separated by a rated firewall. That would probably have to be at least 2 hours, and generally you don't have doors between them.
I mean, exit doors in each room,
No.
no? That doesn't.
It would be, it's based basically on the gross square footage and not like a net square footage.
All right, that was my question for you.
Tony?
Do you have a question?
No, good.
How?
Shall
The
we-
actual regular phone that makes sense?
Yeah, that's a fire call or a medical emergency.
Well,
Do
they
you wanna
better
check
answer
it?
this
No,
question first.
there are people covering that right now.
Well, this question is probably not as important as that, but I'm going to answer. The grant regarding, the federal grant regarding the phones, how much is that for? That we're still waiting.
The radios?
Yeah, the
The
radios.
total grant for all of the radios is in the area of $1.2 million.
Wow.
We're still waiting on that process to
Right.
start back up. And the
I
second,
think they hope to have those grants awarded by the end of January. That's the target.
okay. Then the other question I have is, now what is a normal carbon monoxide read? Should be always 0? Is there like a safe level?
The level that we use for the fire department is 9 parts per million. If it's 0 to 9, you could have that in your house without a problem. Once it goes above 9, then we tell the resident you have some type of problem with heater, hot water heater, that you should get it serviced.
Okay.
Above 100, we have the people evacuate their house. That's just simply too dangerous to remain in there. Unless we can identify, like last night, we identified what the problem was, we secured the problem, we ventilated it down to 0, so there wasn't an issue as long as the guy doesn't turn his heater back on.
All right, gotcha. Thanks.
Pat?
Yes, getting back to sprinkler systems, you had mentioned that if a building were to be put up today at 5,000 square foot,
That's one of the parameters.
okay, it's one of the parameters, okay. We have little incident that's going on now, and I'd like to get an answer or find a way how we could work it out. Over at the train station, there's a woman and a husband that want to open up a babysitting place. Now, daycare. Now, before that, there was no need for a sprinkler system.
Correct, the occupancy type is one of the parameters.
So you're saying that since it's a daycare, it requires
Yes,
a
a sprinkler system.
sprinkler
Right,
system?
and that's very specific in the borough ordinance. Daycare centers are specifically identified as requiring a sprinkler system.
I mean, we're on a verge, we have a person that really wants to get into this place, okay? And she's run up against a hurdle. Okay? She put a lot of money into the building already. She's trying to draw rent, from the historical foundation where the building's from. But I just can't get it that she would have to put $35,000 of her own money out to put a sprinkler system in a building that already occupied two businesses.
Correct. A business,
Cooking in the last one. I
a
mean,
business like a store does not require a sprinkler
Even if they're
system.
cooking in that building?
Correct. The sprinkler system is more designed for the life hazard. When now you're gonna have small children in there, you could have infants in there, so that the life hazard's a lot more serious. The risk is higher with that type of occupancy.
It's just a shame because like Mr. Pezza had said, we need to make it easier for people
But,
to
yeah.
stay here.
The other thing is that there are people who have opened daycare centers in town who have complied with that.
And there are,
Yes.
okay.
One of the things is that we have someone that's going to be putting 12 people to work. And I guess the ordinance, Bill, you mind me referring to Bill on this?
No, not at all.
Bill, getting back to the train station. There's an interested couple that want to put a daycare center in, and they were hit with the fact that they have to put a sprinkler system. Now, in the North Ward, that's one of our treasures in the North Ward, is the train station, the lagoon, the post office, stuff like that, and I just want to know, is there any way to get around this, or is this something that is
No,
very specific?
this was submitted